Hi everybody. This is 5D today. It's the last part of Unit 5. Listen, I just realized something that perhaps you don't know, especially those of you who find I speak a little bit too fast, or who maybe could do with subtitles. There is this option when you play on your computer or even on your mobile as well. There's the option of having subtitles. So I'm speaking to you and you can read what I'm saying, okay? Another thing is, I remind you that you can play the video more slowly. You go to settings, that's ajustes, and you can adjust the speed of the playback. So maybe make it 75%, or in any case, I would be speaking more slowly, and if you can read it, then you shouldn't have too many problems. It would be much easier. Okay, so we start with Unit 5. I have nothing on the screen today because I realized that it was difficult to see, and anyway, you have your book, so we'll just work on your book. And we're doing this today. We're doing this. We're going to study a specific case. That's the hotel Apfelsine, if you pronounce it in English. But the word is really German, so it would be Apfelsine, whatever. That's the name of the hotel that we're going to study. You need to be looking at page 46. All right. On this page, there are 5 reviews. Such as you can read on TripAdvisor. Reviews, was that in Spanish? Reseñas, críticas of an establishment, of a hotel, of a restaurant, etc. So, do you read the reviews? Do you ever read reviews about the hotels, for example, before you book a room in a hotel? Do you read the reviews? Or before you go to a restaurant, do you read the reviews? And what about and do you think that the reviews are always reliable, fiables? Are they reliable, do you think? Or do you think it's the cousin of the owner who writes? I'm sure that's the case sometimes. They write something nice about the establishment so that the ratings will be better. And have you ever written a review yourself? Have you? That's what we're going to look at now. You need to be looking at the 5 reviews on page 46. And what I'll do is I will read the reviews, especially for those of you who may have some trouble with the pronunciation. And I'll give you, well, we will stop whenever we find an interesting vocabulary item. So here's number 1. We ate in the hotel 2 nights, and the food was fantastic. The only problem was that the service can be a bit slow. They seemed short-staffed in the restaurant in the evenings. In general, the hotel staff were friendly and helpful, but the staff at the cafe weren't very attentive. Okay, so here we have the expression short-staffed. They seem short-staffed. That means they were short of staff. So that would be in Spanish literally cortos de personal. Okay, so not enough staff. The hotel staff were friendly and helpful, que te ayudan, serviciales. Number 2, we were disappointed that there were no coffee, tea making facilities in the room. No fridge and no air conditioning when we stayed there in the summer. It says in the hotel magazine in the room that this is a green hotel and they try to be environmentally friendly, but I prefer these facilities next time. So we were disappointed, decepcionados. There were no coffee, tea making facilities. No, ningún. There were no facilities. No había ninguna. This is the same as there weren't any. Okay? No is the same as not any. Number 3. The room was spotlessly clean and very comfortable, but small, like a lot of European budget hotels. The shower was great. My only small complaint is that the towels were very small and thin, and I'm not. So let's have a look. Spotlessly clean. Spot means punto, marca, mancha. Okay, so spotless, that would be sin mancha. Spotlessly, li is mente, but let's say spotless is sin mancha, o sea, this would be like inmaculadamente limpia, spotlessly clean. It's a set phrase. It talks about budget hotels. Budget hotels are, remember, they are cheaper hotels for travelers who travel on a budget. So they need to be looking, the budget, plan de gastos, they need to be looking at the budget to decide whether they can afford something like a meal in a restaurant or they don't have enough money. Okay, budget hotels. Budget is presupuesto o plan de gastos. Number 4. The big issue for me was the service, which was slow and amateurish. The big issue. You can pronounce issue or issue. I waited for 30 minutes to check in. There was only one receptionist on Friday evening, but there were usually 2 or 3 people on reception the rest of the weekend. Really disappointing. The big issue. The big issue is la gran cuestión. Normally this means the great problem. Okay, an issue is a problem. The service was slow and amateurish. Amateurish means not professional, okay? So that would be unprofessional. And finally, we come to number 5. The only negative thing I can say about the Apfelcine or Apple sign is that there is very poor lighting for reading at night, but I suppose this is because they use energy-saving bulbs. So, very poor lighting for reading. Lighting, iluminación, lighting. They use energy-saving bulbs, bombillas para salvar energía. I mean, bombillas para ahorrar energía. This is what we call in Spanish. What do you call this in Spanish? Bombillas de bajo consumo. Okay, so now we have read this. At home, you will see in the study guide, you will be asked to make a list of the good things of the Apfelcine Hotel, okay? And also a list of the bad things and possible ways to resolve the problems. Right, so we are now going to do a listening. This is the listening on page 47. It's 5.7. We have staff talking about some problems at the hotel. We hear 4 people speaking, okay, 4 passages. So what you need to do is you look at the book here and you need to complete the paragraphs with what's missing, lo que falta, okay? Then we'll have a look at the key vocabulary, but there is not much. Anyway, let's have a listen. I've changed the computer. This one is much better, and the sound is better, which is why I got it. Are you ready? Remember to press pause to listen again whenever you need to. Let's go.
1. Most European guests are happy with the room sizes. It's usually the North Americans and Australians who expect bigger rooms. We should offer guests an upgrade to a junior suite on check-in if one is available. It's only another 10 euros and the room is twice the size. Also, we should email in advance and tell families what to expect if they want to put a child's cot in the standard rooms.
2. Lots of guests arrive for weekend breaks on a Friday evening on low-cost flights from all over Europe. We should check the flight arrival times and make sure there are enough staff on reception when there is a busy period like that. Otherwise, guests get frustrated and impatient.
3. We had a few very busy nights in the restaurant last month when some waiting staff were off sick and we had 2 new members of the team. They were obviously slower than the others and forgot to serve 1 or 2 customers. The duty manager didn't phone me to tell me the situation. We should have a list of staff phone numbers to call people who were off duty in cases of emergency like that. The cafe staff do a good job, but 1 or 2 of them don't speak very good English. And they are a bit shy around the guests for that reason.
4.
The majority of our guests know what to expect when they come to the hotel. They love the fact that we are a green hotel, and they understand why we don't have some equipment in the rooms and why we use smaller towels. Some guests are unhappy that they have to come to reception to ask for shower gel and shampoo, but I don't think we should change things.
Okay, so remember to press pause and listen to it again to the exercise. Okay, always listen twice, like when we do a test. Just a second. Okay, so I'm going to have a look at the script now, which is on page 122, because I want to go through some of the vocabulary here. Number 1 says it's usually the North Americans and Australians who expect bigger rooms. Esperan, you know this. It says also it's another 10 euros and the room is twice the size. The room is twice the size. If we translate this literally, es la habitación es 2 veces el tamaño. Twice the size. In Spanish, how do we say this? We say el doble de grande. Okay? 2 veces el tamaño, el doble de grande. We should email in advance and tell families we should email in advance, por adelantado, con antelación. Number 2 talks about escapadas de fin de semana. Do you remember how they said it? Weekend breaks. Number 3. Some waiting staff were off sick. Some waiting staff were off sick. Waiting staff, esto es plantilla, camareros. Waiters, waiting, okay? Waiting staff. Personal, well, I don't know how to translate this. Waiter comes from waiting, okay? So anyway, they were off sick. Estaban de baja por enfermedad, okay? When you are off sick, it's because you don't feel well. So I'm sure now, at this moment, there are a lot of people in Spain who are off sick. I'm talking about people who would normally be working, who is not a lot of people, I know. But anyway, in number 3 also, we should have a list of staff phone numbers to call people who are off duty in cases of emergency like that, okay? To call people who are off duty. Para llamar a gente que no está de servicio, who are off duty, que no están trabajando de servicio. Off duty is double F, okay? The cafe staff do a good job. Hacen un buen trabajo. They do a good job, okay? Do and make. This is often a problem in English. Okay, that's the vocabulary for the for this listening for 5.7, and I think now we're going to have a look at exercise 3, where we have some staff suggestions for how to improve the hotel. I'm not going to read the whole thing because this is homework anyway, but I do want to go through some of the vocabulary as we usually do. So I'll read a bit of number 1. When guests arrive a few hours before the check-in time, let's offer them complimentary coffee and cakes in the restaurant while they're waiting for their room. Okay, so here we have, let's offer them complimentary coffee. Complimentary coffee, we already saw this the other day. Complimentary, do you remember this? It means they don't have to pay for it, okay? It's courtesy of the hotel. It's gratis, okay? Complimentary coffee. They don't have to pay for it. It's gratis. And cakes in the restaurant, pastelitos, okay? That's number 1. If when you read this you have any trouble or anything, you can look it up. Google Translate is a fantastic tool these days. And if the internet doesn't solve your problem, you can ask me. Number 2, as I'll just read a little bit, okay? As part of our green hotel plan, we could offer a nice organic restaurant with lots of fresh fruit, juices, and nice breads, okay? So with lots of fresh fruit, con montones, lots is como montones de fresh fruit, not fruit, okay? Fruit, silent letter here, fruit, juices, and nice breads. That's all. Number 3, why don't we offer our own walking tours of the local neighborhood? Why don't we offer, ¿por qué no ofrecemos our own walking tours, nuestros propios visitas guiadas a pie de la zona, del barrio, the local neighborhood. Neighborhood is vecindad, zona, barrio, okay? Neighbor, vecino, neighborhood, vecindad. And 4, we have free Wi-Fi access in the hotel, but guests don't always travel with their computers. Wi-Fi, don't say Wi-Fi, it's Wi-Fi in English, okay? That's wireless fidelity. Wireless, wire, Wireless. This means sin cable. Wireless. Sin cable. Fidelity. A few years ago, quite a few years ago, good sound systems were labeled high fidelity, alta fidelidad, high fidelity. Now they've taken the same label and they talk about Wi-Fi, that's wireless fidelity, okay, or fidelity. Right, we could lend them a laptop to use at no extra charge. We could lend them a laptop to use. Podríamos prestarles, lend, to lend somebody, a laptop to use, a laptop, un portátil. Remember, laptop, remember you have two types of computers. Basically, you have desktops, desktop computers. That's computers that you put on top of your desk, and laptop computers. They are computers that you put on your lap, en tu regazo, okay? Sobre los muslos. So, we could lend them a laptop to use at no extra charge, sin cargo extra, okay? Notice the preposition at, no extra charge, okay? And I think that's it for Unit 5. I will publish the study guide, and I still don't know if I will keep the same two sections, because we had attended work and CST, but now I don't know, attended work is different because you're not there. So for example, we don't do pair work, we don't do class discussion, so everything changes. I don't know, I'll think about it and publish, and then we can talk about it. All this has to be well, we have to keep making changes to improve our product, sort of thing. Before I finish, I would like to go through the study guide, Unit 1, okay? If you remember, study guide includes attended work and then CST. And the last thing of the CST is exam practice, something which prepares you for the exam. I still don't know what kind of exam we're going to have, but in any case, the exercise is good. So now what you should look at is at your study guide, open your computer, and look at the CST, section E, exercise 1. Actually, this is just one exercise. It's a translation of 6 sentences, actually, okay? You already gave me this, and you probably have a copy. Have a look at your copy, and if not, you'll remember anyway. The first sentence was VFR, significa visitar amigos y parientes. Okay, so that in English would be VFR stands for visiting friends and relatives. Okay, here we could say also VFR means visiting friends and relatives, but if you remember, one of the requirements when you do the exercise is that you need to use vocabulary from the vocabulary list in the unit, in the study guide. And significa, what we have there, stands for. Remember that this is used for when you talk about acronyms, initials. For example, USA stands for United States of America, etc. Number 2. Hicimos un viaje en autocar. Okay, the correct answer is we made a trip by coach. All right, we made a trip, not, this is very important, not a travel. You don't make a travel. Travel is only the verb. For example, I travel very often, or an uncountable noun, but you never say one travel, never, okay? En autocar, by coach. If you rode by bus, okay, I would accept this, but really, autocar, coach. This is British English, but you will often find this word, so you need to take it into account. Hicimos un viaje en autocar. We made a trip by coach. We made. Now, hicimos, you know that in English, you often, you have to choose between doing something and making something, okay? It is often difficult to know which one to use. In fact, I often hear this mistake. The other day I was listening to the news in English, and they were interviewing correspondent from another country, and she made this mistake. Anyway, doesn't matter. Number 3. A menudo es difícil encontrar alojamiento. It is often difficult to find accommodation. So, it is often difficult. Maybe you wrote often, it is difficult, okay. I would accept it, but it's better like this. It is often difficult. Remember to use it. It is often, not just is, okay? Is, as I always say, is a little word that needs company, always needs company. It is, he is, she is, something is, not just is, okay? To find, it is difficult to find accommodation. Remember, accommodation, double C, double M, okay? A, double C, O, double M, O, etc. 4. Hay un camping cerca de mi casa. I don't know what you wrote, but this is a very common mistake too. The correct answer is there is a campsite near my home. Okay? There is a campsite, not a camping. Camping is something you do in English. It's not a place. So, there is a campsite near my home. You don't need to say near of. No, near of is not correct. If you write near to, I'll accept it. But no, near my home. And better my home than my house. Because maybe you don't live in a house. Maybe you live in a flat. Okay? So, right. Number 5. La mayoría de la gente compra solo marcas conocidas. La mayoría de la gente. In Spanish, we have here 6 words. La mayoría de la gente. In English, only 2. Most people. Okay? Most people buy only well-known brands. Well-known brands. Or familiar brands, if you want. Well-known, bien conocidas. So, most people. Perhaps you wrote most of the people. Most of the people would be acceptable. It's not the same thing, though. Most of the people refers to a group of people. For example, if you're thinking of all the people on the island of Ibiza, you could say most of the people on Ibiza go to the beach on Sunday, for example. Then yeah, but it's not in general. It's just most of the people in our group. If you're talking about in general, all over the world, then most people buy only popular brands, familiar brands, well-known brands. Okay? And the last one, deme un billete de ida. Deme un billete de ida. Okay. This is in the workbook. Okay. So, deme. Perhaps you wrote give me. Give me is the translation, but it's not very nice. It's not very polite, and it would sound very rude in English. No deme. Okay. So,